Biz music, sign language, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Biz music, sign language, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Once you get the warm up of the oven happening, you get a little bit into the focus that gets a little bit more than what you originally anticipated. If you get the sensation that your business music is something that can become a language in of itself, in of its own, it is something that has not necessarily been considered in the past. But today, including yesterday's podcast, today we came to the conjecture that ultimately we're trying to also make our own language. We're trying to have our own little bit of a language that is called business music. Language is based around sound, but at the same time it also corresponds to business and entrepreneurship, but at the same time it has to do with philanthropy, and philanthropy energy generation and development as time goes on, but at the same time you need somebody else to be able to speak with, and at the same time in the past it hasn't necessarily been a present opportunity to be able to have anybody necessarily try to speak business music with necessarily, and it's always been a difficult task, so to speak, but at the same time today was a little bit of a realization that today we are trying to somewhat generate our own sort of type of a language, type of a scenario, because yesterday also with the conceptualization of developing a new language is similar to music and tennis at the same time. And at the same time, you need somebody to be able to play with it. At the same time, to be able to play tennis. So at the same time, you need somebody to be able to hit the ball back. And at the same time, there was an encounter a couple weeks back or so ago, necessarily, where we had sort of a run-in or an overlap of time, of energy, of space. And this happened to result in a collaboration with Ari at Home, the YouTuber. He's a YouTuber who, in essence, goes around and makes a lot of music all the time on a consistent basis, and at the same time, in a very peculiar sense, I only heard about him a little bit before I actually ended up collaborating with him, which was very unknown and unforeseen and very strange and very peculiar, to say the least, because the things that he stands for is very much his going outside and developing collaborations on a whim and on the fly, and making the collaborations himself, and going outside and bringing the studio to the outside. Whereas that has been the most significant theme for Diggy Tech and Change for Game Studios all along, and also in the past, and any past content that relates to Diggy Tech and Change for Game Studios, it is very much correlated to, of course, to developing an outside studio scenario, except that it's outside like an office space, as opposed to the inside being an office space, like the outside being an office space. So at the same time, Ari at Home started developing content where he ended up going outside and making music with people outside. And that is in essence what we're referring to in terms of developing a language, because he was somebody to be able to talk to for the first time with this language. It is kind of like that, as like a symbol or symbology, in a weird type of a sense, and an honest, peculiar-ish type of a sense, because for whatever reason, for better or worse, there was this weird crossover, cross-hatching that happened on the day that I ended up collaborating with him, and I ended up doing a report of the day. It was a couple weeks ago. I forget what the date is. I would have to update the date that we did a collaboration with Ari at Home, and I ended up going live on his stream. But at the same time, he makes music outside and does collaborations by bringing the music to people outside. And in essence, I was planning to try to do the same thing because I watched him recently, a couple weeks before that, on YouTube, to be able to go outside and go to try to make music with a few people outside on the street. Although at the same time, we were trying to intermix and blend interviews, so it also had to do with business and business music at the same time. But at the same time, we ended up meeting him when I was going to charge my phone that same day, and then it ended up collaborating semi-peculiar in that sense on his podcast that day, on his blogcast, on his vlog, in other words, on his IRL stream, if you will, Ari at Home, big YouTuber these days, and so it was the most people I've ever played music in front of in my life, and it was very much on a whimsical encounter, which is still pretty peculiar to say that, but nonetheless, I was inspired by him before I happened to meet him, and all that happened to happen in that same day and time and such things, and at the same time, even the times that I've seen a couple of his in real life streams, he's outside and collaborating with other people, and he's playing his music language with other people that he is able to meet with, because he has a studio that he brought out to people, and he brought the house party to people. He didn't wait for people to come to the house party, if that makes sense, which is typically what a music studio is in the past tense. So being able to try to transition this and evolve this into business music language, he's speaking his business, he's speaking his language, I was speaking business music into this podcast, for example, until that day when I happened to meet him. And now, for example, because I happened to meet him, we were able to be able to collaborate, and that therefore created the game of tennis, because he therefore was somebody to be able to receive the serve and also pass the ball back, in essence, to be able to play that game of semi-business music, because I was singing about business music that day as well. So semi-like business music was birthed that day, a little bit at the same time, because there was an audience on his end, and my brand is still pretty much standing pretty lonely, and it's pretty hard to get an audience surrounding Diggy Tech and Change for Game Studios, but that is what it is. That is what it is. Business music is a thing that I'm hoping can take the time that it needs to take to be able to try to manifest itself, and to be able to try to generate itself on its own time, in its own way, in its own space and time. Yeah. So nonetheless, by collaborating with him that day and still being inspired by him many days since then, because he's doing different collaborations with different people that are asking him to develop music on the fly that has to do with music that I've been inspired by in the past and on the fly, that I've always wanted to be able to try to develop music like that for and or with that kind of sound and beats and type of things surrounding me, or making those type of sounds, in other words, around those type of beats in essence. But I have not done so in the past because many times in the past, it's always been difficult to get collaborators into the studio, and that has been a big hesitation causing problem for me, for sure, in the past, and also a lack of skills to be able to develop and produce very well in the past. And so that's why, ironically, I was inspired to do something, and almost like even said to Ari at home when I met him that I was thinking that same day of changing my name to Dinky Tech at home. And when I sang the lyrics on his vlogcast, on his in real life stream that single day, I did also say Dinky Tech at home, playing with Ari at home during the live stream, for what it's worth, because of that thought that I had, and also was saying that out loud for that reason. But nonetheless, the purpose is that he helped me to develop an interaction and a new language of business music, because there was a back and forth reverberation of someone to be able to speak with, and at the same time, because I've been inspired by his inspiring process of going out and finding collaborators, which is something that I always wanted to do, and I'm now trying to do that by intermixing and commingling that with interviews at the same time in the future, in an international sense at the same time, because we're trying to travel across seas. And we're trying to start the interviews and the broadcast across seas in Asia. I hope, and not, some other places. So in the meantime, we'll have to keep you posted on that part. But nonetheless, this is like a business music language in essence, because we're playing music tennis. Trying to play this music tennis. And at the same time, we're trying to develop is what I meant to say, like an international walkie-talkie. We're trying to develop these like international walkie-talkies of music at the same time, where we're trying to like develop these type of blogs in the future that we're trying to aspirationally start to make in Asia. And at the same time, as we're starting to develop this language, it's perpetually from this birth of this energy that has this back and forth music tennis happen in the past, so to speak, that we're able to try to continue to reverberate this energy. So it's continually, perpetually, continuously, on an ongoing basis, able to reverb and reverberate continuous external energy that is able to circulate the world in the form of philanthropy energy, but also business music energy that continues to cycle and circle the world, starting with a little bit of a back and forth language that was began with Ari at home and Diggy Tech back in a couple weeks back and such things. But nonetheless, it's about really the language and the essence of the back and forth music tennis process, the music tennis back and forth reverberation game of music tennis, which is a little bit unique and also transposed from a YouTube video that I saw a few days before that. It was just about learning a new language. And so in terms of the spirit of learning the new language of business music, we're all trying to teach each other at the same time, because we're trying to reverberate it from this podcast at the same time of Diggy Tech and the Nature of Love, and go forward from here as we continue to try to send collaboration energy around the whole world and continue to try to develop an international walkie-talkie, hopefully leveraging things such as Starlink technologies in the future and other technologies that are necessary to try to bring about, as that is the purpose of calling the name of our logo mascot Dinky Tech, as opposed to just Dinky, who was the dog's name in the past. He was a black lab dog, but he's Dinky Tech now because he's all about technology, and he also exists still today in the form of airwaves, in the form of synthesizer frequency waves, which in essence is a similar fashion and in essence, a reverberation of the concept of developing international walkie-talkies, because a significant reason why today international walkie-talkies are not necessarily an easy concept to be able to develop is because the frequencies are not stretching far enough to be able to get this interaction to be able to occur in a smooth and fashionable fashion. And so we want to be able to try to get this nailed down and be able to try to develop a function to be able to make this functional, so that in essence we're able to collab and reverb collabs on a consistent basis as much as possible, because that in essence would be able to contribute to more business music and so nonetheless, so nonetheless, so nonetheless, yeah, we're trying to make this new type of language, if you will, but it's a little bit strange what it even is supposed to be, because this back and forth energy is supposed to try to develop not just like a new language that is spoken necessarily like in a normal sense in a language necessarily, but it's like a new language that is hopefully open to all people to be able to try to connect with each other around the whole world in a sense of music, to be able to play business music and music business at the same time. It's also like just like developing this language at the same time that everybody's able to understand, just like music is a language of, but business music is like this type of new language where it's a way to speak entrepreneurship in essence. It's a way to speak utterances of entrepreneurship in essence, just like, and a certain sense animal communication, like animal communication, but at the same time, we're trying to develop philanthropy energy all around the whole world, but developing these reverberating frequencies, just like an international walkie-talkie, and trying to develop with new technology in the short and long-term future is able to try to be able to develop this type of new type of language so that we're able to all in essence play music tennis together at the same time, music tennis together with ongoing perpetual global frequencies that are just like an international walkie-talkie. Oh, an international walkie-talkie so that we are able to play with each other the games through a digital format and also develop global philanthropy energy to the global philanthropy energy grid and also all together be able to develop the global philanthropy energy grid from business music and business music tennis, business music tennis, business music tennis in the form of language like animal communication in the form of business music tennis, business music tennis, business music tennis as we continue to unfold business music and business music tennis for everybody in the world to be able to play back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, ping together, ping together, ping together, and pling, 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 like ping pong all around the world, together, 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 together. From one side to another, from one side to another, from one side to another, picking back off from one side to another with business and music collaborations and inspirations that then therefore ping and re-ping back and forth the global philanthropy energy to be able to patch itself together in a global philanthropy energy grid like an actual human beings to electricity, business music, global philanthropy energy grid, global philanthropy energy. Thanks again, Digitech by Peace by Digitech Change for Games. Change for Games Studios.